Daddy, my ear hurts. Get out of my damn way, Michael Carter roared, storming through the ER doors with a trembling 6-year-old girl in his arms. She's in pain and you're asking for insurance first? Are you kidding me? A nurse stepped back, startled. Sir, we need to register. She's a child, he thundered, eyes blazing. You want to fill out paperwork while her brain rots from infection? Is that how you treat poor kids? Or is it because she's black, huh? Silence. Cold, uncomfortable silence. Another nurse whispered, Sir, please lower your voice. Michael snapped. I've donated more money to this hospital than your entire annual salary. But none of that matters right now. What matters is her. He pointed down to the child curled against his chest, Anna shaking, tears streaking her cheeks, one hand clutching her ear. Either you get a doctor right now, or I'll make sure every board member in this city knows your name and what you did. A pediatrician arrived within seconds, led by the chaos. I'm Dr. Lin. Let me see the girl. Michael lowered Anna gently onto the exam table. Dr. Lin spoke softly. Hi, sweetheart. I'm gonna help you, okay? Just stay very still. Anna whimpered. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Michael took her hand. Daddy's right here, baby. It's okay. You're safe. Dr. Lin examined her ear with a scope, then froze. Michael saw it. The doctor's face darkened. What is it? Michael asked. Doctor. Lin glanced at the nurses, then at Michael. Did she stick anything inside herself? No, Michael replied firmly. She was fine this morning. Then she woke up screaming. The doctor called for a tray. Scalpel tweezers, magnifier. A nurse ran off. Michael's voice hardened. Tell me what's going on. Dr. Lin looked him in the eye. Someone inserted something into her ear. Very precisely. Michael stiffened. What kind of something? Doctor. Lin pulled out a tiny object, black, glinting, no bigger than a pepper seed. Anna cried out softly. Michael leaned in. What the hell is that? The doctor whispered. It's a listening device. Michael blinked. What? Dr. Lin nodded. Surveillance. Grade. Military. Adjacent. Not a toy. Someone placed this inside her intentionally. Michael clenched his jaw. Who had access to her while I was gone? The nurse returned with the tray. Dr. Lin sealed the object into an evidence bag. Who's been with her in the last 72 hours? Michael's eyes narrowed. Vivian, my wife, and her mother. They insisted I go to Atlanta. Dr. Lin paused. You need to be careful. This wasn't random. Someone's watching you. Through her. Michael stood silent, trembling with rage. Then his phone rang. Vivian. He stared at the screen. Did she know? He didn't answer. Later that night, in his office, Michael pulled up security footage. He watched frame by frame as an unknown man entered his house using a private code. No knock. No hesitation. Anna had drawn the same man earlier that week, no face. Just one red eye like a camera lens. Michael spoke aloud to himself. She didn't marry me for love. He reached for a drawer, pulled out a locked folder, and flipped through documents, prenup, insurance, stock portfolios. Then he found it. The clause. If Michael died without a will revision, Vivian inherited everything. He whispered, She's trying to kill me. He walked into Anna's room. She was sleeping peacefully, curled up with her stuffed bear. He sat beside her bed and whispered, I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner, baby girl. He touched her curls. You're not just my daughter, Anna. You're my light. My only reason to keep breathing. She stirred in her sleep and murmured, Love you, Daddy. Michael whispered back, voice cracking, I love you too, and I swear, no one's ever going to hurt you again. Not even her. Anna sat quietly in the passenger seat of the armored SUV, her knees tucked to her chest, her tiny fingers playing with the loose ear of her teddy bear. Michael hadn't said a word since they left the hospital. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel, jaw clenched, eyes locked on the road ahead. Daddy? Anna whispered. Michael blinked out of his haze. Yeah, baby? Am I in trouble? He turned to her, softened instantly. No, sweetheart, not even close. She looked down. I didn't mean to get sick. Michael pulled the car over. He turned to face her fully. Anna, listen to me. You didn't do anything wrong. You hear me? She nodded slowly, still unsure. He reached across and took her hand. Whatever this is, it's not your fault. Someone did something terrible. And I'm going to find out who. And I'm going to stop them. Anna looked at him, eyes searching. Is it Mommy? Michael hesitated, just for a breath. Then, number, not your fault to worry about. Let me handle it. He put the car back in gear and drove. Back at the penthouse, Michael carried Anna upstairs. She was asleep before they reached the elevator. He laid her in bed gently, pulled the covers to her chin, and kissed her forehead. He stared at her for a long moment before whispering, "You're safe now." Downstairs, Michael stepped into his home office, locked the door, and opened the wall panel to the secure safe. Inside, encrypted drives, backup phone, burner laptop, and 2 manila folders labeled Vivian Carter and Clara Bryant. He opened Vivian's file first. Her background had always seemed clean. Too clean. Ivy League. PR career. No social media. No contact with her family, until after they married. He pulled up her marriage application, then compared it to the name on a loan application from 12 years prior. Different address, different employer, different last name. He tapped into his database access, bypassed several walls, and found the truth. Vivian Carter was once Vivian Hale. Before that, Lacey Whitman. 3 legal name changes across 2 states. Michael's chest tightened. Next, he checked her financials. Monthly transfers to a private LLC labeled Clarion Consulting. No services rendered, no invoices, no emails. Just quiet, $8,000 payments every 15th. He copied the transactions into a secure file. Then he checked footage from the house security system from the week before. At 9:18 p.m. Thursday night, while he was speaking on stage in Atlanta, a man entered his home through the side door. Short build, baseball cap, gloved hands, no hesitation, went straight to Anna's bedroom. 15 minutes later, he left empty-handed. Michael leaned forward, rewound, and paused. The man had touched Anna's pillow. And her ear. He clenched his fists. Son of a bitch. His phone buzzed. Wes. Michael picked up. Talk to me. Wes's voice was low. You were right. Vivian's background's full of holes. No college records exist under her maiden name. Social security number linked to an old intelligence firm based out of D.C. went dark in 2018. Espionage? Michael asked. Private sector, corporate surveillance, used to target high-value startups. Sound familiar? Michael exhaled. She married me for access. I'd say so, Wes muttered. And it gets worse. Go on. She's already met with a divorce attorney, named Samantha Klein. Real shark. She specializes in asset seizure, mental health evaluations, and full parental custody. Michael closed his eyes. They're building a case, he said flatly. Yeah, Wes confirmed. And that device in Anna's ear? That wasn't just to listen. It's bait. If you get angry enough, paranoid enough, they'll call you unstable. She gets your company, your kid, and walks away clean. Michael said nothing for a long beat. You still there? Wes asked. I'm here, he said finally. Get me everything. Emails, texts, metadata. I want her entire digital footprint. If she breathed near a phone, I want it on file. You got it. Michael hung up, then sat in silence. His world was cracking at the seams. He had trusted Vivian, loved her, or thought he had. He remembered their first date, her precise questions, her interest in his startup's growth model, her fascination with his software infrastructure. At the time, he thought she was smart. Now, he realized she'd been probing. He went back to Anna's sketchbook. He flipped through the pages, rainbows, stick figures, dogs, and then another house. A different room. A hotel room. Neatly drawn. Television on the wall. Coffee maker. 2 pillows. It was the same suite he had stayed in during a trip to Denver 5 months ago. He stared. She had drawn it from memory. Anna had been there, but she'd never mentioned it. He flipped the page. Another figure. A woman standing at the door. Curly hair, holding a suitcase. Vivian, Michael whispered, you followed me. His heart pounded. She hadn't trusted him. Or maybe it was part of her job to plant something while he was away. He remembered the charger that had been warm even though he hadn't used it. He dug it out of his travel bag, then cracked it open. Inside, a thin chip wired along the inside shell. He held it under the desk lamp. A soft glint. He sat back in his chair. Vivian hadn't just betrayed him. She had violated the one sacred bond he had left his relationship with Anna, the girl he had chosen, the one no one else had wanted. His voice was ice. She messed with the wrong little girl. He stood, walked to Anna's room, opened the door quietly. She was still sleeping. He knelt by her side and took her small hand. If this moment touched your heart, hit the like button and comment where you're watching from. Someone near you might be watching too. From now on, he whispered, I don't just protect you. I fight for you. Then he stood and walked away. The war had just begun. The next morning, Michael Carter stood in the kitchen in a black t-shirt and sweatpants, frying eggs in silence. The penthouse felt colder than usual, despite the soft California sunlight pouring through the glass. Anna sat at the island counter, slowly stirring a bowl of cereal. Her teddy bear tucked under one arm. Michael glanced at her. Sleep okay? She nodded, not looking up. Yes, Daddy. He slid the eggs onto a plate and placed it in front of her. Eat up. Big day today. What are we doing? She asked, finally meeting his eyes. We're going to visit someone. Someone smart. Anna blinked. Are they a doctor? He smiled faintly. Smarter than most doctors. By 10 a.m., they pulled into the gated campus of Lockridge Labs, a quiet facility tucked in the hills north of Santa Monica. The guard waved them through without hesitation. Michael's name still carried weight in places where technology and money shook hands in secret. They entered through a side door. No sign-in, no waiting room. Dr. Harold Lynn stood waiting in the private diagnostics room, lab coat unbuttoned, glasses low on his nose. Mr. Carter, he said, shaking his hand. Then he bent to Anna. Hello again, young lady. Anna smiled shyly. Hi. Harold motioned them inside. I've had the object analyzed overnight. We ran it through 3 scanners. You'll want to see this. Michael followed him to a back room where a metal tray held the tiny black device. Harold pointed at the monitor behind him. A rotating 3D image showed the device's interior, dense circuitry, micro batteries, an antenna coil, and a polymer coating designed to resist detection. It's custom-built, Harold said. Military, adjacent, not available commercially. Whoever made this had resources and access. Transmission range? Michael asked. Up to 200 feet in urban environments. Stronger in open areas. Michael stared at the screen. Did it transmit anything? Harold nodded slowly. It activated 4 times, each for 15 minutes, all between 7 and 10 p.m. the nights you were gone. Audio only? Yes. No storage. Just live transmission. Michael folded his arms. Can you tell where the receiver was? Harold hesitated. That's harder, but I pulled signal echoes. The closest ping was triangulated to a brownstone address in Westwood. Michael's jaw tightened. Vivian's mother. Harold nodded. And if you're wondering how it got into Anna's ear, there's only one explanation. She was held down, Michael said coldly. Harold didn't answer. Michael leaned over the tray. They used my child to spy on me. Behind them, Anna sat quietly on a padded bench, swinging her legs. She hummed to herself softly, oblivious to the gravity of the war unfolding around her. Michael knelt in front of her. Anna, do you remember anyone touching your ear last week? She looked up. Grandma said it was waxy. She used a light and something small. Michael kept his voice steady. Did it hurt? She nodded. A little. She told me not to tell Mommy or you. Michael stood slowly, fists clenched. Thank you, sweetheart. He turned to Harold. I need a copy of the report, digital and printed, every detail. Harold handed him a sealed envelope and a flash drive. Already prepared. Michael looked him in the eye. Don't tell anyone about this, not even your wife. Harold gave a firm nod. That evening, Michael waited in the dining room of his penthouse. The table was set, candlelight, steak, 2 glasses of wine. Vivian arrived exactly at 7, heels clicking on the tile. She kissed him on the cheek. Fancy tonight? He smiled. Just missed you. She glanced toward the hallway. Where's Anna? Watching a movie. She's had a long day. Vivian sat down, unfolding her napkin. She seemed tired last night too. Michael poured her wine, growing fast. They made small talk schedules, school forms, neighborhood gossip. She laughed at all the right moments, touched his arm at just the right beats. Then, halfway through the main course, Michael set his fork down. The doctor said it wasn't an ear infection, he said, voice even. They found something else. Vivian paused. What do you mean? He looked up. They pulled a transmitter out of Anna's ear. Surveillance. Grade. Placed intentionally. Her glass shook slightly. Do you know anything about that? He asked. She blinked. Of course not. That's insane. She said your mother did it. Vivian's smile dropped. She told her not to say a word, Michael continued. But kids remember, especially when it hurts. Vivian set her wine down. You're accusing my mother now? I'm accusing both of you, he said calmly, of endangering my child, of planting a bug in my daughter to spy on me, of betrayal. Vivian stood up, voice rising. You're paranoid. This is insane. He stood, too. Is it, or did you think I wouldn't notice the money transfers to Clarion Consulting, the falsified resume, the man who entered my house Thursday night using a code only family knows? Her lips parted, but no words came. Michael leaned forward, inches from her face. You married me with a purpose. You built a life around my name, my money, my company. Silence. Who's your real employer, Vivian? She said nothing. I'll find out, he said softly. With or without your help. Vivian turned and walked toward the elevator. Michael called out, try anything stupid and I go straight to the police. And this time, they won't believe your tears. The doors slid shut behind her. Upstairs, Anna peeked out from her room. Daddy? Michael picked her up and held her close. Did Mommy get mad? He kissed her forehead. She's just confused, honey. Anna snuggled against his chest. Can we move again? Michael looked out over the city skyline, lights shimmering like ghosts. Yes, he said. We will, soon. And this time, he thought, she'll never find us. 2 days later, the knock came at precisely 8:42 a.m., sharp, calculated. Michael opened the door to find a woman in a gray blazer and a man with a badge clipped to his belt. Mr. Carter? The woman asked. Yes, he replied, already feeling the shift in the air. We're with Child Protective Services, she said, flashing a badge. We received an anonymous tip regarding unsafe living conditions for your daughter. Michael didn't blink. Come in. Anna had already left for school with the neighbor. Thank God. He led the agents through the penthouse. Calm, composed, despite the pounding in his chest. The man checked the refrigerator. The woman opened the medicine cabinet. Both scribbled notes. The woman asked about schedules, routines, emotional behavior. She sleeps fine, eats well. School reports are excellent. You're welcome to speak with her teacher, Michael said smoothly. The man looked around the living room. Any weapons in the house? Only logic, Michael replied. The woman arched a brow. Are you under stress, Mr. Carter? He smiled thinly. Only when people try to take my daughter. 20 minutes later, they left. No threats, no conclusions, just, we'll be in touch. Michael closed the door behind them and stood still. His pulse thudded in his ears. The game had escalated. He walked into his office, opened the evidence box, and began scanning documents. Surveillance photos, financial statements, copies of the transmitter report. He checked the drawer. The box was gone. Michael froze. He checked the closet open. He never left it open. He scanned the floor, the shelves, the safe. Nothing. His blood ran cold. No sign of forced entry, no broken locks, no fingerprint smudges, just absence. He walked straight to the computer and pulled up security footage. The last 24 hours were corrupted. The camera feeds blinked black between 2 and 5 a.m. Erased. He exhaled sharply. They were here. He opened the wall panel, checking the backup drives. Gone. Only one person could move that silently. Vivian. That night, he sat in the dark at his desk, Anna asleep down the hall. He held her sketchbook in one hand, flipping through drawings, searching for something, anything that told him she was still safe. Page after page. Then he saw it. A drawing of a fire. Red crayon flames, black smoke. A bed in the middle, a stuffed bear half melted. His heart stopped. He flipped to the next page. The same room. This time, the fire had spread to the ceiling. He grabbed his phone, raced down the hall to Anna's room, and flung the door open. The smell hit him, first burning plastic, then smoke. Thick gray smoke rolled from behind the dresser. "Anna!" he shouted, running to her. She stirred, coughing. "Daddy?" He scooped her into his arms and ran. The hallway filled with heat. The alarm hadn't even gone off. He burst out onto the balcony, gasping for air, Anna clinging to his chest. From below, sirens howled. 15 minutes later, the fire was out. The lead firefighter, a gray-bearded man with sunken eyes, pulled Michael aside. "Short circuit in the wall," he said. "Outlet behind the dresser was tampered with. Someone rewired it wrong, deliberately." Michael stared at the charred remains of Anna's room. He whispered, "They tried to kill her." The next morning, Michael walked into the local precinct carrying a heavy black briefcase. The officer at the front desk barely looked up. "I need to file a report," Michael said. "Child endangerment, attempted arson, surveillance, fraud." The officer raised a brow. "You got proof?" Michael opened the briefcase. Inside, copies of the hospital report, photos of the transmitter, the fire report, screenshots of financial transfers, backup audio from a conversation between Vivian and her mother. He placed each piece one by one on the desk. The officer stared, then picked up the phone. By noon, Detective Carla Reyes sat across from him, flipping through pages. "This is extensive," she said. Michael leaned forward. "It's not paranoia, it's warfare. Your wife and her mother, you think they're working together?" "I don't think," he said. "I know." She nodded slowly. "All right, I'm assigning 2 officers. We'll start a formal investigation tonight." At 5:37 p.m., Michael received a call from the State Highway Patrol. "Mr. Carter, we've located your wife." "Where?" "She was stopped at a rest stop off Interstate 5. She had your daughter in the back seat. No child seat. Luggage packed. Said she was going to visit family." Michael's grip tightened on the phone. "Is Anna okay?" "She's fine. A bit scared. Sitting with one of our officers right now. I'm on my way." 2 hours later, he pulled into the rest stop parking lot. The scene was surreal. Police lights flashing. Vivian sitting in the back of a cruiser, staring out the window, blank-faced. Her mother being questioned by an officer nearby, and Anna sitting on the bumper of a patrol car, sipping juice, hugging her bear. Michael knelt beside her. "Hey, baby girl." "Daddy." She threw her arms around his neck. He held her tightly, heart pounding. "I've got you. I've always got you." One of the officers approached. "She's safe, but it's a good thing we stopped them. They were hours from the border." Vivian was being led away in cuffs. She didn't look back. Clara tried to argue until she saw Michael watching. Then she lowered her head. That night, back home, Michael tucked Anna into the guest room, the only one untouched by the fire. She whispered, "Will they come back?" He kissed her forehead. Number never again. She closed her eyes, hand holding tight to his. And for the first time in weeks, she slept soundly. Michael walked into his office, sat down, and opened the drawer. Inside, a new tracker. Small, silent, GPS-enabled. He held it between his fingers. They'd get out someday. Maybe not soon. But when they did, he'd be ready. He pressed the button. A red light blinked once, then vanished. 1 week later, Michael Carter stood outside the courtroom, hands folded tightly behind his back, his dark suit pristine, his jaw like carved stone. Inside, behind heavy oak doors, the trial had begun. State of California v. Vivian Hale, a.k.a. Vivian Carter, and Clara Bryant. Charges: conspiracy, child endangerment, attempted arson, unlawful surveillance, and fraud. Anna wasn't there. She was with Mrs. Hargrove, the retired librarian Michael trusted more than any relative he'd ever had. A quiet woman with a garden full of sunflowers and a cat named Thomas who never left Anna's side. Michael didn't want his daughter hearing the words they were about to say about her mother, about what had been done to her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Inside the courtroom, Detective Reyes testified first. "We found custom surveillance equipment embedded in the child's ear, confirmed by forensic analysis. It was placed during the father's absence. The only adults present were the defendant and her mother." The defense objected. "Objection overruled," the judge said firmly. Michael watched from behind the glass wall. Vivian sat at the defense table, hands folded in her lap. She wore a black dress, minimal makeup, her hair tied back. She looked like a woman in mourning, but not once did she look toward the observation window. Clara sat beside her, rigid, silent, like someone holding her breath through the fire. The prosecutor stood. "We will prove today that these women conspired to infiltrate Mr. Carter's life, his business, and his child's body for the purpose of corporate theft and personal gain. What they underestimated was his refusal to break." Michael leaned his head against the cool glass. He remembered the first time he saw Vivian, a gala in Manhattan. She was asking sharp questions about cybersecurity infrastructure over champagne. He'd mistaken it for intelligence. Now he saw it for what it was: reconnaissance. By noon, the court replayed the audio Michael had secretly recorded from Vivian's car. Vivian's voice filled the room, distorted but clear. "It's almost done. The deal goes through next week. Once they acquire the platform, we shut it all down. He'll lose everything." Clara's voice followed, faint but focused. "And the custody? Same strategy," Vivian replied. "Once we show he's unstable, it's over." The jury sat frozen. Vivian didn't react. No tears, no denial, just silence. Michael stepped back from the glass and walked outside into the midday sun. He didn't need to hear more. He knew how it ended. By 4:30 p.m., the verdict came in. Guilty on all charges. The courtroom murmured. Vivian finally looked up, but not at the jury, not at the judge. Her eyes went to the empty gallery seats. Michael wasn't there. He was already halfway across town, sitting beside Anna on the swings at Rosefield Park. "Push me higher, Daddy," she laughed, arms out wide, eyes gleaming. He smiled. "You got it, kiddo." The sky above them was the soft orange of peace. 2 weeks later, they moved. New town, new apartment, smaller, simpler, a place where nobody cared who Michael Carter was, where Anna could just be a little girl with a sparkly lunchbox and a new friend named Maya who shared her crayons. Michael built a home office in the spare room. No security cameras, just paper notebooks and photos of Anna on the wall. He cooked dinner every night, taught Anna how to fold laundry, let her fall asleep on the couch during cartoons, and every Friday, they walked to the bakery for cinnamon rolls and hot cocoa. But at night, sometimes, he still woke up with a start, a noise in the hall, a flicker of shadow under the door, and each time, he'd get up, check the locks, then check on Anna. She always slept with the bear in her arms now, the one that smelled like smoke. One evening, as he tucked her in, she looked up at him with wide eyes. "Daddy?" "Yeah, baby. Do monsters ever come back?" He paused. "Sometimes. But if they do, they won't get far." She nodded. "Because you're here?" He kissed her forehead. "Because I'll never leave." Down the hall, Michael sat at his desk. He opened the drawer and took out the tracker he'd activated the night Clara and Vivian were arrested. He checked the location feed. Still at the detention center. Still blinking quietly. But he wasn't watching just them anymore. He was watching the silence. Because people like Vivian didn't act alone. There were layers, money, clients, names he hadn't found yet. He had time now, time to trace the contracts, to follow the shell companies, to build what his lawyer called a wall of proof so tall no shadow can cross it. He tapped the device once, then closed the drawer. Outside, the wind moved through the trees. Inside, the house was still. Anna turned in her sleep, murmuring softly, "Love you, Daddy." Michael whispered back from down the hall, "Always." And for the first time in months, he let himself close his eyes, knowing the war might not be over. But she was safe. And that was enough. One rainy Thursday morning, Michael sat alone at the cafe down the street from Anna's new school. The window beside him rattled softly as wind pushed against the glass. A mug of black coffee steamed between his hands. His laptop sat closed on the table, untouched. He wasn't working. He was waiting. The door opened with a chime, and Wes slid into the booth across from him, wearing a soaked jacket and carrying a manila envelope under one arm. "I ran it all down," Wes said, pulling the hood off his head. Clarion Consulting wasn't just a front. They're part of a layered web of shell firms registered in Delaware, the Caymans, and oddly, New Mexico. "Oh." Michael sipped his coffee. "Go on." "Each month, for the last 3 years, money's been funneled in from a parent company called Ardent Systems. Ever heard of it?" Michael nodded slowly. They bid against me 3 years ago. Tried to steal a contract with Homeland Security. Lost. Wes raised a brow. Then someone held a grudge. Because the man behind Ardent, Simon Geller, used to be head of strategic operations at Voltron Analytics, Vivian's former employer. Michael leaned back in his seat, eyes narrowing. So this wasn't just betrayal? No, Wes said. It was revenge. Professional and personal. They planted her in your life to monitor, distract, report, and if necessary, dismantle. Michael tapped a finger against the mug. She married me for a mission. And when it didn't go fast enough, Wes added, they went after your daughter. Michael's jaw tightened. Do we have proof linking Geller? Not direct, Wes said. But enough circumstantial data to make his life miserable if you leak it to the press. Payments, email metadata, time logs. Michael reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a flash drive. Give it to my lawyer. Tell him to prep a civil suit. Racketeering, corporate sabotage, child endangerment, throw everything. Wes nodded. You sure you want to go public? I won't, Michael said. But I want him to know I can. Later that afternoon, Michael picked Anna up from school. She ran toward him in a yellow raincoat, backpack bouncing, a grin wide across her face. Daddy, I got a gold star. He knelt to hug her. That's amazing, sweet pea. She looked up. Maya says her mom is baking cookies tonight. Can I go? Michael hesitated for a moment, then nodded. I'll call her mom. We'll set it up. They walked home in the light rain, hand in hand. At home, Michael reheated leftover stew, and Anna curled up on the couch watching cartoons. The house smelled like thyme and warm bread. Ordinary, peaceful. After dinner, Michael opened his laptop in the study and typed for the first time in weeks. Not code. A letter. To Anna. He wrote slowly, deliberately. My sweet Anna, there are things you may never know about your mother. About how she entered our lives, what she did, and what she tried to take. But what matters more is what she couldn't destroy. You. Your laugh, your light, your incredible strength. You are not a mistake. You are not broken. You are not marked by what was done to you. You are mine, chosen, loved, protected. He saved the letter, encrypted it, and stored it in 3 separate drives. Then he checked the tracker again. Vivian was still in holding. Clara too. But someone else had moved. Simon Geller. GPS ping. Private jet. Departed Boston. Landed in Nevada. Michael called Wes. He moved. Yeah, Wes said. They always do when they know they've been found. Send someone to follow him. Already did. He's meeting with a new investor. Tech firm out of Taiwan. Michael exhaled. He's planning to start over. That's what snakes do. Then we burn the next nest too. The next day, Michael received a letter. No stamp, no return address. It had been slipped under his door. He opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten note. We never meant to hurt her. Just you. You made the game personal. Now you've made it war. No signature. Just an address. A storage unit in Culver City. Michael folded the note slowly, then called Detective Reyes. I'm bringing something in, he said. You'll want a warrant. 2 hours later, he watched as officers pried open the storage unit. Inside, hard drives, surveillance gear, 2 burner phones, and a printed map of Michael's old office, with exit routes marked. The detective turned to him. They were planning something bigger. Michael nodded. They always were. Back at home, he tucked Anna into bed. She was half asleep, one arm around her stuffed bear. Did you check for monsters? She mumbled. He smiled. Every corner. And? Nothing but dust. She smiled and drifted off. Michael sat beside her for a long time, watching her breathe, remembering how close he came to losing everything. Not just his company. Not just his name. But her, he whispered. You are my legacy. Not the tech. Not the patents. Not the deals. Then he kissed her forehead and stood. In the study, he opened a new document. Title, The Blueprint of Betrayal. It wouldn't be code this time. It would be testimony. The kind that shook boardrooms and unseated men like Simon Geller. Because Michael Carter was done playing defense. They came for his daughter. Now he was coming for their world. 4 days later, Michael Carter sat across from his lawyer in a private office overlooking downtown Los Angeles. Rain streaked the glass behind them. The air smelled of leather, ink, and storm. His lawyer, Rebecca Langston, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, tapped her pen twice against the table and leaned forward. "This," she said, sliding a printed report across the desk, "is enough to terrify a corporation, but not enough to bury one." Michael scanned the top page. Payment logs, surveillance contracts, back-channel communication metadata, every line pointing back to Ardent Systems, and through them, Simon Geller. "They used my daughter," Michael said softly, "as a listening post. If that doesn't count as grounds for full legal obliteration, what does?" Rebecca gave him a look. "You want justice or revenge?" Michael's answer was instant. "Both." Rebecca leaned back. "Then we'll need a bigger hammer. I suggest we find someone inside Ardent, a weak link. Someone they burned, someone willing to talk." Michael nodded. "Start digging." As he stood to leave, Rebecca asked, "Have you told Anna anything yet? About the trial, her mother?" He shook his head. "She knows Mommy's not coming back. That's enough." That night, Michael picked Anna up from Mrs. Hargrove's and walked her home in the rain. She held his hand, her purple boots splashing through shallow puddles. "Daddy?" she asked. "Yeah, sweet pea. Is it okay that I don't miss her?" He paused. "It's okay to feel whatever you feel." Anna looked up. "Maya said mommies are supposed to love you more than anyone." Michael tightened his grip gently. "Some mommies don't know how, but that's not your fault." She nodded slowly. "I like it better here." He smiled. "Me too." Back home, after dinner and 2 chapters of Charlotte's Web, Anna fell asleep on the couch, snoring softly into a pillow. Michael carried her to bed and tucked her in, whispering goodnight. Then he returned to the study. The rain hadn't stopped. He poured a glass of whiskey and turned to the whiteboard, now covered in photos, documents, and red marker arrows connecting names. At the top, Simon Geller. Beneath it, Ardent Systems. To the side, Clarion Consulting. And lower, Vivian Carter, Clara Bryant. He stared at the map for a long time, then added a name, Tobias Vance, former Ardent Systems analyst. Terminated 2 years ago after blowing the whistle on internal black box surveillance programs. Wes had found him living off-grid in a trailer near Lake Tahoe. Michael booked a flight the next morning. By sunset, he was standing outside a battered airstream in the woods, wind slicing through the pine trees. A dog barked from somewhere inside. Then the door opened. A bearded man in a flannel shirt stood in the doorway, holding a shotgun but only loosely. "You Carter?" "Yes." "You got 2 minutes." Michael didn't flinch. "They used my daughter, 6 years old. Listening device in her ear." Tobias blinked. "Come in." Inside, the trailer smelled like old paper and gasoline. Boxes lined the walls. Stacks of printed code, handwritten notes, old hard drives. Michael sat on a folding chair. Tobias poured 2 cups of coffee from a dented pot. "They used to call it Echo Worm," Tobias said. "That's the system Ardent ran. Private surveillance contracts for corporations. Embedded devices, proximity audio, high-value targets only." "Oh, how did they choose?" Tobias chuckled bitterly. "They didn't. Clients did. CEOs, rivals, journalists, whoever could afford it." Michael leaned forward. "I want records. Proof." Tobias studied him. "They'll come after you." "They already did. They failed." Tobias pulled a box from under the table. Inside were 3 drives and a worn notebook. "Everything I salvaged when I left. Names, locations, contract IDs, including Vivian Hale's handler." Michael's breath caught. "Handler?" Tobias nodded. "They didn't send her in blind. She had someone feeding her intel, prepping her every move. His name's Cole Farrow, works from the shadows." Michael took the box. "Thank you." Tobias looked at him. "Be careful. These people don't forget. They erase." Michael stood. "So do I." He drove back to the airport with the box beside him, his fingers tapping the steering wheel the whole way. Rain battered the windshield like static. Back in LA, he handed the drives to Rebecca. She looked through the files, her expression hardening. "You have everything now. This isn't just a civil suit. This is federal. Wire fraud. Organized surveillance. Possibly even RICO." Michael looked out the window. Make the call. That night, as Anna slept, he stepped onto the balcony, the cold wind stinging his face. He dialed a number from memory. The man who answered spoke in a quiet, British-tinged voice. Carter. I'm activating the file, Michael said. The one we buried 5 years ago. A pause. Are you sure? They crossed the line. Another pause. It'll expose everything, even your name. Michael exhaled. Then I'll wear it. He hung up. Back inside, he checked Anna's room one more time. She was curled under the covers, holding her bear, safe and warm. He whispered, "They wanted war." Then he turned off the light. They just got one. 3 weeks later, the story broke. Front page of the Washington Tribune. Black box surveillance ring. Exposed former tech CEO Michael Carter speaks out. Inside the paper, a full exposé. Names, schematics, confidential documents. The photo of a tiny listening device extracted from the ear of a 6-year-old girl. Her name was redacted. Her identity protected. But the world knew. Michael hadn't spoken directly to the press. He didn't have to. The documents from Tobias Vance, combined with testimony from Detective Reyes and legal filings from Rebecca Langston, did the talking for him. Across the country, news outlets exploded. Morning shows, think pieces, panel discussions. People were outraged, not just because of the technology, but because someone had turned a child into a target. Michael watched it all unfold from the living room. Sitting on the couch, Anna curled beside him, oblivious, coloring in a notebook. He muted the television as her favorite cartoon came on. "Daddy," she said, holding up her drawing. "This one's you." He smiled. "Looks just like May. See? You have a cape, because you're like a superhero." He pulled her close and kissed her temple. "You're the real hero, baby girl." I just followed the clues. That night, Michael received a call from Rebecca. "We got a subpoena." "For who?" "Cole Farrow." Michael straightened. "You found him?" "FBI did," she said. "He's being held at a black site facility near Quantico. He wants to talk." Michael didn't hesitate. "Schedule it." 2 days later, Michael boarded a private flight arranged by the Justice Department. No press, no cameras, just silence and clouds. The interrogation room was small, cold, and windowless. Cole Farrow sat chained to the steel table. Late 40s. Trim beard. A suit that looked like it used to cost 10 grand, now wrinkled and stained. Michael entered alone. No tie, no guards. Just rage and calm wearing the same face. Cole looked up, smiled faintly. "I wondered when you'd show." Michael sat, said nothing. "You're not what I expected," Cole continued. "Your file said you were quiet, private, obsessive, maybe, but not this." Michael spoke softly. "You put a device in my daughter." Cole nodded. "Technically, I didn't, but yes, under my direction." Michael's knuckles whitened. "You want answers," Cole said, leaning forward. "I'll give you one. You weren't the target. Not really. Your software was. You just got in the way." Michael's voice didn't rise. "You used a 6-year-old child." Cole shrugged. "It was clean. No visible entry point. Perfect cover." Michael leaned in, his voice like steel wrapped in velvet. "You know what they call people who harm children?" Cole laughed quietly. "You think I care about names? You've already exposed us. The firm's done. Ardent's folding. My accounts are frozen. The walls are caving in." Then why talk?" Michael asked. "Because there's one more name you don't have." Michael's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Cole smiled again, slower this time. "The buyer." Michael froze. "There was a second party," Cole said. "Not Ardent, not Clarion, International. They didn't just want surveillance. They wanted replication. They wanted your entire algorithm rebuilt mirror structure. Silent tracking. Passive learning. You developed it, but they were going to make it theirs." Michael swallowed. "What's the name?" Cole tilted his head. "I'll trade." "For what?" "Protection." Michael stood. "Rot in here." As he reached the door, Cole called out, "They're still watching, Carter. You think you're done, but this story doesn't end with me, or Geller, or your ex-wife." Michael paused. "They don't care that she's in jail. They care that you opened your mouth, and they will come for your kid, because that's how these people work." Michael turned slowly. "You talk, or you disappear forever. Cole's smile faded. He leaned forward, whispered the name. Michael's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes turned cold, hollow. He walked out without another word. Back in LA, Anna was at a birthday party when Michael returned. He sat alone in the kitchen, the name echoing in his head. He typed it into his encrypted system. Nihoma Technical Institute, Shanghai. A shell, no public footprint, but tied to 3 tech espionage cases in the past 6 years. Now, somehow, linked to Anna. He poured a drink, didn't sip. Later that evening, Anna came running through the door, covered in icing and glitter, shouting, "Daddy, I got 2 cupcakes." Michael smiled. "You're glowing. I saved you one," she said, handing him a crushed wrapper with pink frosting. He laughed and hugged her close. But even in that moment, something inside him stayed quiet, focused. That night, he packed a small bag. Passport, documents, a backup drive. He left a note on his desk. "If I don't come back in 7 days, activate File Sigma. Anna goes to Hargrove. All assets transferred, and no one touches her again." He kissed Anna on the forehead as she slept. Then he turned off the lights. Justice wasn't finished, and neither was he. Shanghai, 3:17 a.m. The city pulsed with neon and mist, each tower stretching into a sky of shifting fog. Michael Carter stepped out of the car near the Bund, blending into the cold air with a dark wool coat and gloves. He wore no watch, no jewelry, no device that could be tracked. Just a disposable phone, a secure drive in his inner pocket, and a name that burned like a brand in his mind. Nihoma Technical Institute wasn't listed on any tourist guide, didn't have a corporate sign, and didn't need one. It operated beneath the surface 4 floors below a dull gray office complex, labeled Shanghai Logistics Consulting. He showed no hesitation as he passed through the front door. Inside, a single man at a desk glanced up, surprised. "Do you have an appointment?" Michael didn't answer. He placed a black chip the size of a nickel on the counter. The man stared at it, recognition flashed in his eyes. "I'll call the director," he said, standing. Within minutes, Michael was being led down an elevator deeper than any listed in the building's blueprint. When the doors opened, it felt like stepping into another country. Cold LED lights, glass walls, silent corridors that echoed with tension. They brought him to a room with no windows. Inside sat a woman in her 40s, hair slicked back, dark eyes unreadable. Her name was Li Chen. She didn't offer a hand. "Mr. Carter," she said in crisp English. "I must admit I didn't think you'd come yourself." Michael took a seat. "You tried to replicate my algorithm." She tilted her head. "We paid for access. Through my wife." Li Chen gave a small, clinical nod. "Your wife was resourceful. She's in prison now," Michael said evenly. "A temporary state." Michael's jaw flexed. "You used a child. My child. She wasn't harmed. She was marked." Li Chen said nothing. Michael leaned forward. "You will delete every copy of that code. You will destroy every backup, every schematic, and every byte of what you stole, or I will make sure every intelligence agency from London to Langley knows exactly who you are." Li Chen chuckled softly. "You think you have that kind of reach?" Michael reached into his coat, placed a drive on the table. "You remember Project Anvil?" Her eyes flickered. "I do. This drive contains everything your people tried to wipe from that incident, including video logs, intercepted calls, and internal audits that place your hands squarely on 4 separate violations of international surveillance law." Her voice was low now. "That was sealed." "Not anymore," Michael replied. "You wipe your hands clean of me and my daughter, or the world burns with you." Li Chen stared at him, quiet for several beats. Then finally, she said, "You are not the man they described. Then they underestimated me." She tapped the table twice. A silent signal. A man entered, whispered something in Mandarin. She nodded, then turned back to Michael. "Done," she said. "The backups are being purged. Your name and your daughter's biometric profiles are erased from our systems. And the code will never surface again. You have my word." Michael stood. "I never wanted a war. But I will never lose it, either." As he turned to leave, she spoke once more. "There's one more thing you should know." He paused. "The tracking device placed in your daughter wasn't just for listening. It was paired with a sleeper protocol, something your ex-wife didn't know. If it had been activated remotely, it could have delivered a microdose of sedative into her bloodstream. Michael turned slowly, face pale. She was never in physical danger from us, Li Chen added. But had someone else accessed the code your rivals, perhaps it could have been triggered unintentionally. Meaning? He asked. Meaning, she said evenly. You didn't just save her life from betrayal. You saved it from the worst kind of accident. Michael said nothing. He simply left. By sunrise, he was back on the plane. LA felt like another planet when he landed. The sun was warm, the streets slow. As he stepped into the apartment, the smell of pancakes and cinnamon greeted him. Anna looked up from the table and ran straight into his arms. "Daddy," she shouted. "You're back." He knelt and held her tight. "Yeah, baby, I'm back." She pulled back to look at him. "You were gone a long time. I had to make sure some bad people don't come back." She nodded seriously. "Did you win?" He smiled softly. "We both did." Later that evening, Michael watched her draw at the table, the sunset brushing across her curls. She drew a house, a girl and a man beside it. She wrote a name above the door. Home. Michael stepped outside to the balcony. He looked at the horizon, clear, golden, open. He pulled out the tracker, pressed the button. The light blinked once, then went dark. Justice was done, and the story, the one no one else could have written, was finally over. Under the soft lamplight of their modest LA apartment, Anna sat cross-legged on the floor, crayon in hand, drawing spirals of sunshine around a stick-figure family. Michael sat on the couch behind her, staring at the envelope he had found wedged beneath their front door that morning. No return address, no markings, just one line written in rushed black ink. "You still owe her the truth." His jaw tightened. He glanced at Anna. She hummed softly, immersed in her art, completely unaware that the world had once again tilted beneath her feet. Michael stood, walked into the kitchen, and dialed a number he hadn't called in years. The line buzzed 3 times before a voice answered, low, raspy, familiar. "You finally opened it," the man said. "Why now?" Michael replied. "Because your daughter's safe. But that's not the end, Mike. You know it." Michael swallowed hard. "Tell me." "The girl's mother didn't act alone." "I already figured that out." Li Chen confirmed as much. "There's more. You need to come to Virginia. Same place we used to train. Tomorrow night. Bring the girl." Michael's fist clenched. "Number, I'm not dragging her back into this. You already did the moment you kept the truth from her." The line went dead. The next morning, Michael dropped Anna off at her new school and arts charter nestled in Silver Lake. The principal, Mrs. Lillian Hope, greeted them both with warmth. "We're honored to have Anna join us," she said kindly. "She's special." Michael nodded. "She is." Back in the car, he dialed another number. This time it rang longer. Finally, a woman's voice answered. "I thought I told you to disappear." "Hello to you too, Rena." She exhaled sharply. "Why are you calling me?" "Because it's not over, and because you're the only one I trust to keep Anna safe while I'm gone." Silence. "Please," he added. "When?" "Tonight. I'll be there in 2 hours." That evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Rena arrived, leather jacket, tight ponytail, eyes sharp as ever. Anna took to her instantly, sensing the quiet strength in her. Michael crouched beside his daughter. "I need to go for a few days," he said gently. Anna looked up, curious. "Are you going to fight the bad people again?" "No," he replied. "This time, I'm going to tell the truth." She wrapped her arms around his neck. "Come back fast, Daddy." "I will." Michael drove through the night, past desert and dust and long-forgotten road signs. Virginia greeted him with the ghost of autumn, the trees half-clothed, the air whispering old memories. He parked at the foot of a trail, hiked an hour through woods that once trained him to kill. At the summit stood a lone cabin, gray, wooden, silent. Inside, the man from the phone sat at a table, pouring 2 cups of coffee. "You remember how to find this place?" the man said. "I remember everything," Michael replied. The man handed him a photo, black and white, grainy, dated 2004. It was Anna's mother, but not how Michael remembered her. "She was embedded," the man said, "years before she met you. Assigned to extract intel from your team. Fell in love with you anyway." "That wasn't the plan." Michael stared at the image. Why didn't I know this? Because you didn't want to. The man pushed another document forward, a birth certificate. It wasn't Anna's original one. Michael's breath caught. You're saying she's not biologically hers. Anna isn't her daughter. Michael dropped into the nearest chair. Then who? Anna's father was a programmer in Nigeria. Assassinated before she was born. Your wife posed as his widow, smuggled the child into the US, and used her as cover. She never wanted to raise Anna, just needed a story to disappear into. You were her escape route. Michael felt the floor shift beneath him. She never told me. Because somewhere along the line, you became a real father to Anna, and that ruined the operation. Michael rubbed his eyes. Why does this matter now? Because the people your wife ran from, they've found the girl's bloodline, and they're looking for her. Michael stood. Then I need to protect her again. No, the man said. This time you need to tell her. She needs to know who she really is, and what's coming. Michael stared at the fire flickering in the hearth. Every instinct screamed to shield her. But the truth was now a weapon, and silence only sharpened its edge. He drove back to LA, in silence, heart heavier than any battle he'd fought. When he entered the apartment, Anna was asleep on the couch, curled beside Rena. He tucked her in, sat beside her, and whispered into the quiet. Tomorrow, he said, I'll tell you everything. At 6:03 a.m., sunlight slipped quietly through the blinds, casting gold across Anna's sleeping face. Michael sat on the edge of the sofa, staring at her. A dozen times that morning, he rehearsed the words. None felt right. Nothing could prepare a child for the truth. That everything she believed about her origins was a lie, but she deserved it. The truth was the only armor left. Anna stirred, stretching, eyes blinking into the soft light. Daddy? She mumbled. Michael reached out, brushing her curls gently. Good morning, sweetheart. She smiled, then paused. You didn't leave. No, he said. I needed to be here today. Rena entered from the kitchen with 2 mugs. She handed one to Michael and nodded. He knew that look it meant now or never. Michael turned back to Anna. Sweetheart, I need to tell you a story. A true one. Anna sat up, folding her arms around her knees, curious but quiet. There's something I've kept from you, he continued. Not because I wanted to lie, but because I was scared. Scared it would hurt you. Is it about Mommy? She asked. Michael hesitated. Yes, and also, about who you are. He told her everything. About her mother's past, how she'd once been part of something dangerous. How she used identities to survive. How Anna came into his life like a quiet miracle. He told her about the man in Virginia, about the photograph, about the certificate. He watched her eyes darken, not with fear, but something older, disbelief, loss. I'm not her real daughter, she whispered. No, Michael said softly, but you're my daughter. That never changed. Anna's lower lip quivered. Who was my real daddy? Michael pulled out the folder he'd brought home. Inside was a photo, an old one. A kind-eyed man standing in front of a classroom chalkboard. The name printed beneath. David Nwosu, software engineer and teacher, Lagos, Nigeria. He was brilliant, Michael said, and brave. He stood for what was right, even when it cost him his life. Anna stared at the photo in silence. Then softly, did he love me? Michael swallowed. He never got the chance to meet you, but he would have loved you with all his heart. Tears slipped silently down her cheeks. Michael reached for her, but she held up a hand. I need to think. She walked to her room, door closing with a click. Michael sat frozen. Rena exhaled from the kitchen. She's strong. Give her space. I just ripped her world apart. No, Rena said. You gave her a foundation. Now she gets to build something real on it. That afternoon, Anna emerged. No tears, no tantrums, just quiet resolve. Can we go to the library? She asked. Michael blinked. The library? I want to learn about Nigeria. He smiled slowly. Of course. They spent the next 3 hours at the downtown branch, flipping through books on culture, geography, and language. Anna soaked up every word. She wrote notes in a little green notebook she had tucked in her backpack. When they returned home, Anna climbed onto the couch beside Rena. Did you know I'm Nigerian? She asked proudly. Rena smiled. I do now. Anna leaned back, satisfied. I'm going to write a report about my family, real and chosen. That night, as Michael tucked her in, Anna looked up. "Daddy?" "Yes, baby. Do I still have to keep my last name?" He paused. "Number, you can choose." She smiled. "I want to keep it. It reminds me of you." Michael bent down and kissed her forehead. "Then Langston it is." As she drifted to sleep, Michael stepped out onto the apartment balcony. The city below shimmered in quiet hums of light. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number lit up the screen. "She knows. Now prepare her." Attached was a video file. He opened it. Grainy footage. A man in military uniform entering a dark hallway. Following him, a woman. Then another figure, masked, armed. The timestamp read, "Today, 4:26 p.m. The hallway wasn't unfamiliar. Michael leaned closer, heart pounding. It was Anna's school. He dropped the phone, racing inside. "Rena," he shouted. She was already moving, pistol in hand, backpack slung over one shoulder. "Grab Anna," she said. "We don't have much time." They woke Anna gently but urgently. "Baby, we have to go," Michael said, scooping her up into his arms. "Why?" she asked, groggy. "Because the bad people found us." She didn't cry, didn't scream, just clutched the photo of her father and whispered, "Let's go." They slipped out through the stairwell, into the alley. A black SUV was already waiting. Rena slid into the driver's seat, Michael and Anna in the back. "Where are we going?" Anna asked. Michael squeezed her hand. "To a place where the truth is more powerful than fear." Under the cloak of early dawn, the black SUV cut through the empty backroads of upstate New York, its headlights slicing the mist. Michael sat in the back seat, arms around Anna, her head resting on his chest. Rena gripped the wheel tightly, her eyes flicking between the rearview mirror and the winding road ahead. She hadn't spoken since they left the city. "Where are we going?" Anna whispered. Michael looked down at her. "To someone I trust, someone who can keep us safe." Rena turned off onto a gravel path flanked by pine trees. After several minutes, a cabin appeared, a weathered structure with a metal roof and thick shutters. There were no neighbors in sight, only the chirping of birds and the rustle of wind through trees. Rena killed the engine. "We'll stay here for now. It's off-grid. No signals. No surprises." They entered quickly. Inside, the air smelled of cedar and old paper. A fireplace sat cold and unused. There were books everywhere, stacked on counters, crammed onto shelves. Michael moved toward the back room, setting Anna down on a cot. "Sleep, sweetheart," he said. "I'll be nearby." Anna nodded silently, pulling the blanket up to her chin. Michael kissed her forehead, then stepped outside with Rena. "We need to talk," she said flatly, lighting a cigarette on the porch. Michael closed the door behind him. "About the video?" Rena blew out smoke. "The timestamp, the corridor, that wasn't random surveillance. Someone wants you to know they're close. And they want to rattle you." "It's working," he said bitterly. She looked at him, eyes sharp. "We need to think strategically. Who else knows about Anna's true background?" "No one. Not after the files were scrubbed. Just you, me, and Elizabeth." Rena's jaw tightened. "Your wife tried to poison you 6 months ago. Why is she even still alive?" Michael sighed. "Because if I exposed her, the board would spin it into a scandal, the company would fall, and Anna would be dragged into the media circus." Rena tossed the cigarette. "Well, someone on the inside is feeding intel to whoever's watching us, and I have a feeling Elizabeth's not done." That night, after Anna fell asleep again, Michael stayed up in the cabin's den, scanning through the rest of the files the anonymous sender had attached. Most were surveillance clips, drone footage of his building, grainy images of Anna at school. But one file was different. It was a recording audio only. He played it. Static crackled. Then a voice, female, crisp, cold. "You don't deserve that child, Michael. You never did. She was a mistake. You'll lose her, and everything else, just like I planned. Elizabeth." Michael's hands clenched the armrests. Rena stepped into the room behind him. "She sent that?" she asked. He nodded. "She's unraveling." Rena sat across from him. "Or she's confident." Michael stared at the fire, now crackling with low flame. "She's moving in the open. That means she's ready for something." The next morning, they woke to a knock at the cabin door. Michael motioned for Rena to stay back. He moved quietly to the side window and peeked through a slit in the curtain. An older man stood outside, gray beard, denim jacket, holding a thermos. Michael relaxed. "It's Ben," he said. "He owns the land next door." Michael opened the door. "Morning, Ben." The man smiled. "Figured you might want fresh coffee. Saw the tire tracks last night." Appreciate it," Michael said, taking the thermos. Ben's eyes flicked to the SUV. "Something tells me you're not just up here for the weekend." Michael's smile faded. "Family trouble." Ben nodded, understanding more than he said. "You're safe here. Cell towers don't even work half the time. Nobody comes this far unless they're lost or hiding." As Ben walked off, Rena whispered, "We'll need him. Local eyes. Quiet loyalty." Later that day, while Anna played with a dog Rena had rescued years ago, an old golden retriever named Duke Michael walked to the shed behind the cabin. Inside, under a tarp, lay a metal case. He opened it. 2 pistols, 1 compact rifle, a burner phone, and a USB stick marked with tape, Fallout Plan. He hadn't touched it in 5 years. Rena entered silently behind him. "You think it's time?" Michael nodded. Elizabeth crossed the line. "I'm going to DC." Rena's brow furrowed. "You can't just walk into the lion's den." "I won't, but someone on the inside still owes me. I'll get the evidence I need to bring her down and protect Anna." Rena grabbed his arm. "You're not alone in this, Langston." Michael met her eyes. "I know." That night, after dinner, Anna curled up next to Michael on the couch with a book. "Can I ask something?" she said. "Always." She pointed to the photograph of her birth father on the table. "Do you think he'd be proud of me?" Michael looked down at her, eyes filled with love. "I know he would be, and so am I." Anna nodded solemnly, then leaned her head on his arm. "I want to learn to protect people too, like you, like Rena." Michael smiled. "One step at a time, little warrior." Outside, the wind howled through the trees. Inside, the fire glowed steady. But far beyond the woods, in a high-rise office lit by moonlight, Elizabeth Langston watched the same cabin on a monitor, fingers drumming the desk. She turned to the man beside her. "Activate Phase 2, and make sure he sees it coming." At exactly 2:13 a.m., the cabin's silence was shattered by a single beep, barely audible but piercing enough to wake Michael instantly. He sat upright on the couch where he had dozed off, his hand reaching instinctively for the burner phone on the nearby table. One new message. "Your safe house isn't safe anymore. Move now." No number, no trace, just a cold warning from whoever had been watching and maybe, just maybe, someone trying to help. Michael stood and moved fast. He tapped Rena's shoulder where she slept in the armchair. "We've been compromised." She opened her eyes instantly. No grogginess, just clarity. "Time? Just now, we need to go." They moved like clockwork. Michael packed a small duffel with essentials while Rena retrieved a rolled-up blueprint from the floorboards, an emergency escape map of the surrounding woods and secondary roads. Anna was still asleep in the back room, curled under 2 thick blankets. Michael lifted her gently. "Daddy?" she mumbled. "Shh, we're going on another little trip, okay? Just hold on to me." Anna clung to him, half asleep, sensing the tension in his voice. Duke, the retriever, followed close behind, tail low but alert. By 2:29 a.m., they were back in the SUV, rolling down the gravel path without headlights. Rena used night vision goggles to guide the way, swerving off the mapped road onto a hunting trail that eventually led toward a rural airstrip 20 miles away. As they drove, Rena asked, "Think it's Elizabeth again?" Michael stared out the window, jaw tight. "It's always her. She's pulling strings through the company, the board, and she's not just coming for me anymore. She's coming for Anna." Rena's eyes narrowed. Then we hit back. Michael looked over. "We don't have enough yet. We need that file, the one you said only Jenkins could get." Rena nodded grimly. "Then we go see Jenkins." They reached the airstrip at 4:07 a.m. A retired military pilot named Hal stood waiting near a small twin-engine Cessna, its engines already humming. "You owe me for waking me up," Hal grunted. "But I figured if you're dragging a kid and a dog into my hangar, it must be serious." "It is," Michael said. "We need to get to Atlanta." Quietly, Hal nodded. "Fuel's loaded. Keep your heads down." 30 minutes later, they were in the air, leaving the fog-covered woods behind as sunrise began to paint the sky in pale orange. Anna was curled against Michael's side, headphones over her ears, watching clouds drift past the window. Rena sat up front with Hal, running over landing protocols and airport clearance. Michael scrolled through the burner phone again. The anonymous message still haunted him. It hadn't just been a threat, it had been precise. Someone close, someone with access. His thoughts drifted to Jenkins. Harold Jenkins, former CIA, now an independent cybersecurity contractor with high-level clearance and enough dirt on half of DC to build a mountain. He had helped Michael years ago during a hostile takeover and vanished into semi-retirement afterward. Rena said she could get him to talk. By 7:43 a.m., they landed on a private strip outside Atlanta. A black pickup truck waited near the hangar, engine humming. Rena stepped out first, then gestured for Michael and Anna. A tall, grizzled man stepped from the truck, silver beard, worn baseball cap, eyes sharp as glass. "Langston," Jenkins said flatly. "Been a while," Michael replied. "I heard you married a snake." Michael's jaw flexed. "I did worse. I trusted her." Jenkins looked over at Anna, then Rena. "You bring trouble to my doorstep?" "I bring truth," Michael said, "and I need your help." Inside Jenkins's bunker-like home, beneath reinforced concrete and steel shutters, they laid it all out. The poisoning attempt, the surveillance footage, the mysterious message. Elizabeth's voice on tape. Jenkins listened without speaking. Finally, he got up, opened a locked cabinet, and pulled out a hard drive. "This," he said, placing it on the table, "is every communication your wife had with foreign buyers, shell corporations, and 2 men she's paid off in the past 6 months. One of them's a judge." Michael blinked. "How long have you had this?" "Too long. I was waiting for you to come to your senses." Rena leaned forward. "Is there anything we can use legally?" Jenkins smirked. "Depends on how dirty you want to get. I can get you in front of Senator Hawkins' staff. They're already sniffing around the Langston Foundation's numbers." Michael nodded slowly. "Set it up. But keep Anna out of this." Jenkins raised an eyebrow. "That's going to be hard. Your wife's already floated a story to the media, says you kidnapped your own daughter." Michael's face went pale. "She what?" "She's painting you as unstable. Claims she found a suicide note. And the board is backing her, at least publicly." Michael stood, pacing. "She's sealing me off from every direction. If I don't go public, she wins. But if I do, Anna's dragged into it." Rena stood. "There's one more move." Michael looked at her. "What?" "We flipped the narrative." She pulled out a flash drive. "I've been tracking her. She's not just laundering money. She's using non-profit funds to finance offshore accounts under Anna's name." Michael froze. "She's using our daughter to hide her fraud?" Jenkins nodded. "If that goes public, she's done." Michael sat slowly, the weight of it all settling over him. "She's not going to stop," he whispered. "Not until I'm erased." Rena looked him in the eye. "Then we make sure the world sees the truth first." Outside, the wind picked up again, whistling through the trees like a warning. Inside, they began drawing up the plan that would change everything. Under the cover of night, the plan unfolded like a carefully written symphony. Jenkins, with his years of experience in both government espionage and corporate infiltration, worked methodically at his terminals, typing without hesitation. Every keystroke traced the money, millions laundered through fake charities, buried under the name of a 6-year-old girl who was now asleep on a couch down the hall, clutching a stuffed bear that smelled like her old bedroom. In the kitchen, Michael stood over the sink, staring at the tap as water trickled out. His knuckles were white around a chipped mug. "She used Anna's name," he muttered, voice tight. "She used my daughter as a cover for her crimes." Rena leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "You didn't see it before because you didn't want to. You thought you were protecting Anna by staying silent. But the longer you stay quiet, the louder Elizabeth becomes." Michael turned, eyes bloodshot. "I know that now." Jenkins walked in, placing a folder on the counter. "Bank records. Offshore transfers. 2 of them point directly to a shell account tied to Anna's social security number. All we need is a whistleblower's affidavit and you've got a scandal." Michael opened the folder. Dozens of transactions. Dates, amounts, aliases. He recognized a name one Elizabeth had once casually used at a charity gala. "She's been planning this for years." "She's good," Jenkins said flatly, "but not good enough." Rena stepped forward. "We need to act fast." She's already called in favors with the media. There's a news segment airing tomorrow morning on Channel 4 claiming you fled the country with Anna. Michael's fists clenched. What time? 7 a.m., Jenkins replied. But we can beat it if we go live tonight. Live? Michael asked. Rena nodded. We record a statement. You tell the truth. You expose everything calmly, clearly. You show the documents. You don't accuse. You reveal. Michael looked uncertain. That could put Anna in the crossfire. Jenkins shook his head. Not if we control the narrative. Frame it as a father trying to protect his daughter from financial abuse and corporate fraud. You're not just a CEO, you're a parent whose child was exploited. That lands hard, especially with voters and donors. Michael looked toward the hallway, where Anna's soft breathing could be heard. He sighed deeply. Then let's do it. An hour later, the living room was transformed into a makeshift studio. Rena adjusted the camera while Jenkins fine-tuned the lighting. Michael sat on a worn armchair, folder in his lap, tie loosened just enough to look human but not defeated. Rena counted down. 3, 2. The red light blinked on. My name is Michael Langston, he began, voice steady but weighted with emotion. You may know me as a businessman, a philanthropist, or simply as the CEO of Langston Industries, but tonight, I speak to you not in any of those roles. I speak to you as a father. He paused, looked down, then back at the camera. My daughter, Anna, is 6 years old. She is the light of my life, and she has been used as a pawn in a scheme to launder millions through my own company. He opened the folder and held up a document. These are bank records, transferred funds, accounts tied to her name, not by accident, but by deliberate intent, by people I once trusted, including my wife. The camera zoomed slowly as he continued. This isn't just about a company, it's about a child, and the lengths to which power will go to protect itself even at the cost of family. 10 minutes later, the recording was done. Rena uploaded it through encrypted channels to 5 major outlets. One was a close contact at a reputable national podcast. Another to an old friend at NPR. At 4:12 a.m., the video was live. By 4:43 a.m., it had 80,000 views. By 6 a.m., the story was already being picked up by news blogs, small radio stations, and Reddit threads titled, CEO's Wife Launders Money in Child's Name. And by the time Channel 4 aired their pre-scheduled smear segment at 7 a.m., the tide had already turned. The host looked visibly nervous as she read the teleprompter. Midway through the segment, her producer handed her a note. She blinked, turned to the camera, and said, We are receiving new information as we speak. Apparently, Michael Langston has released a public statement detailing financial misconduct tied to his daughter's name. We will update you as this story unfolds. Michael, Rena, and Jenkins watched the broadcast in silence. Anna sat between them, legs swinging, not fully understanding the gravity of what was happening. Is that you on television? She asked softly. Michael nodded. Yeah, sweetheart. Did you win? He smiled faintly. Not yet, but we're close. Jenkins stood. This is where it gets dangerous. Elizabeth won't retreat. She'll double down. She still has the board, the investors, and maybe worse. Rena looked at Michael. You ready for that? He stood. I have to be. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. Whether they were passing through or coming closer, no one could be sure. But inside that bunker, the war for truth had begun in earnest. And this time, the world was finally watching. The knock came at 7:32 a.m. 3 sharp raps against the reinforced door. Jenkins was already at the monitor, scanning the feed. A black SUV. No plates. 2 men in dark suits stood outside, their hands visible, but their posture tight military, not corporate. They're not hers, Jenkins said. These guys are federal. Rena leaned over his shoulder. FBI? Too polished. Too careful. Could be DOJ. Or Langston's old contacts. Michael walked in, buttoning his shirt. Anna still curled up on the couch behind him. If they were here to arrest me, they'd already be inside. Jenkins opened the speaker channel. Identify yourselves. A calm, baritone voice responded. Special Agent Thomas Grady, Department of Justice. We're not here to arrest anyone. We're here to talk. Off the record. Jenkins turned to Michael. Your call. Michael exhaled, nodded. The locks disengaged with a hiss. The two agents entered slowly, hands still visible. The taller one, Grady, held a slim black folder. He looked around, eyes scanning every angle. You've got quite the setup here. Reminds me of Panama. I was never in Panama, Jenkins replied. Grady smiled faintly. Of course not. Michael stepped forward. You've seen the video. Grady nodded. Half the country's seen the video. The other half will by noon. You caused a political firestorm. Rena folded her arms. Good. Grady raised a brow. Depends on who you're trying to burn. Jenkins stepped in. If you're here to run damage control for the administration. I'm not, Grady interrupted. But there are people who want this buried. Fast. Elizabeth Langston has deep ties, judges, senators, 2 former secretaries of the Treasury. She's already activated them. There's talk of painting this as a mental breakdown, that you faked the documents. Michael shook his head. You saw the data. Jenkins can testify. Rena was there. My daughter, she was used. Grady looked at the couch. Anna was awake now, sitting up, watching the adults speak in hushed tones. Her small eyes were wide, but she said nothing. I believe you, Grady said quietly. That's why I'm here. He handed Michael the folder. Inside is a sealed deposition from one of Elizabeth's former assistants. She disappeared 2 years ago. She's in witness protection now. She documented everything: names, dates, threats, even a false medical report filed under Anna's name. She was the one who realized what was going on. Michael flipped through the pages, heart racing. This is what we need. Grady nodded. Yes. But there's a catch. There always is, Jenkins muttered. You can't go public yet, Grady said. You need to let this follow a legal process, quietly. If you explode this now, Elizabeth walks with immunity. The DOJ has been building a case for 6 months. Your video just gave us the missing link. But if you jump the gun, she'll invoke attorney-client privilege and drag the process out for years. Michael looked stunned. So you want me to go silent again? No, Grady replied. I want you to stay alive. And if you go loud now, she won't hesitate to retaliate. Hard. Rena stepped forward. We've already gone loud. There's no going back. Grady held her gaze. Then you better disappear. Not hide, vanish. Let us take it from here. Michael looked down at Anna. She was clutching her bear again. Where would we go? He asked. Grady took out a phone and slid it across the table. There's a contact saved under the name Harriet. She runs a facility upstate. Private, secure. You'll have protection, and Jenkins can work remotely. Jenkins snorted. You're assuming I'm coming. You're already in, Grady said. You know too much. Michael stared at the phone, then looked at Jenkins. What do you think? Jenkins hesitated, then said, I think Elizabeth Langston won't let us breathe if we stay. And if we run now, maybe, just maybe, we live long enough to see her fall. Rena glanced toward the window. When do we leave? Grady checked his watch. Now. Within 30 minutes, the small team had packed up. The drives were encrypted, the cameras wiped, and Anna dressed in a new set of clothes Rena had picked up from a thrift store. The black SUV now had plates borrowed from a government motor pool. They moved fast, like they'd done this before. As they pulled away from the safe house, Jenkins glanced back at the city skyline. Think she knows we're gone? Grady, driving, replied, She will, in about 20 minutes. Michael held Anna close as she rested against his chest in the back seat. Her voice came soft, muffled against his shirt. Are we running away, Daddy? He hesitated, then kissed her forehead. No, baby, we're running toward the truth. Behind them, a storm was brewing, but ahead just maybe was a shot at something more than justice. A shot at redemption. Snow fell quietly over the Hudson Valley as the black SUV rolled up a long gravel driveway flanked by pine trees. The house at the end was more fortress than farmhouse stone walls, steel shutters, and a gated entrance with no visible cameras but far too much security to be normal. A woman in her 60s opened the door before they knocked. Her silver hair was braided into a crown, and her face bore the calm of someone who had already seen the worst of the world. You must be Michael, she said, extending a hand. I'm Harriet. Michael shook it firmly. Thank you for helping us. She looked down at Anna, who clung to Rena's leg. And you must be the little light everyone's talking about. Anna managed a nod. Harriet's smile was gentle. Come in. I've made soup. Inside, the air was warm with the smell of rosemary and old books. The home was fortified, yes, but lived in blankets draped over chairs, framed photos of military units and jazz concerts and children playing in muddy fields. Jenkins scanned the perimeter before settling near the fireplace. How secure is this place? Harriet poured tea without looking up. I've hosted more than a dozen whistleblowers here in the last 20 years. Langston would need a court order, a satellite scan, and Jesus himself to find you. Rena finally allowed herself to exhale. Over dinner, Harriet briefed them. The deposition Grady gave you is just the start. There are offshore accounts, dummy charities, even a death certificate filed under your name, Michael dated 2 weeks ago. Michael froze. She declared me dead? Harriet nodded. If you died mysteriously today, the paperwork would already be waiting. That's how these people work. They erase you before they destroy you. Anna, sensing the tension, reached for Michael's hand under the table. I won't let her win, he said softly. You already dented her, Harriet replied. But now we need the knockout. That night, Michael couldn't sleep. He stood by the window, watching the snow thicken across the hills. Harriet joined him quietly, 2 mugs in her hands. She's your daughter, isn't she? She asked. Michael nodded. Not by blood, but yes. Harriet studied his face. She looks up to you like you're the only star left in her sky. Whatever happens next, keep that light on. Michael's jaw clenched. Elizabeth wanted to use her like a tool, a sympathy puppet, a shield for corporate fraud and political leverage. And you gave her a name, Harriet said. A home, a father. In the morning, Grady called. It's begun, he said over speaker. Langston just held a press conference. Claimed Michael was mentally unstable, faked adoption papers, and fled with a child he wasn't authorized to keep. Jenkins barked a laugh. Classic misdirection. Grady's voice was low. She's playing hardball. The assistant attorney general is being leaned on. We may lose our window if we don't act fast. What do you need? Michael asked. Proof. A final piece. Something undeniable that ties Langston directly to the offshore fund and the falsified birth certificate. We think it's on a drive stored at her estate. Room 4B in her private wing. Rena raised an eyebrow. You want us to break into Langston's house? No, Grady replied. I want you to retrieve something that belongs to you. You lived there, you have legal access, and Harriet can help. Harriet looked up. I still have my credentials. I was her chief of staff before I blew the whistle in 2009. Michael stared at the phone. When? Tomorrow night. Midnight. Lights out for 20 minutes. We'll trigger a false fire alarm and loop the security feed. Rena looked at Michael. Are you ready to walk back into that hell? He looked at Anna, who was reading quietly near the hearth, a blanket around her small shoulders. I'd walk through fire. The next day was spent in preparation. Jenkins assembled blueprints of the estate, now coated with thermal overlays. Harriet coached them through Langston's likely behavioral patterns, her traps, her taste in surveillance. She always kept a decoy safe in her office, Harriet warned. The real goods are hidden in plain sight, likely disguised as something sentimental. Night came heavy. The wind howled over the hills. At 11:47 p.m., the SUV returned to the city, headlights off, hearts pounding. Langston's estate loomed like a sleeping beast. Inside the command van, Grady's voice crackled. Fire alarm in 3, 2, 1. Red lights flared across the mansion. Sprinklers triggered. Screams of confusion echoed. The guard shift scrambled into evacuation. Michael, Rena, and Harriet slipped through the east entrance in black gear. Jenkins directed from the van. You've got 20 minutes. Go. Inside, the marble floors reflected emergency lights. Portraits of Langston's ancestors stared down like judges. They moved quickly, silent as ghosts, up the grand staircase. Room 4B was locked. Rena produced a thin blade, picked it in seconds. Inside, familiar furniture. The bed Michael had once slept in. The desk. The dresser. Focus. Jenkins whispered through the earpiece. Michael dropped to his knees, scanning the floorboards. Harriet moved to the bookshelf. She loved this one, Harriet muttered, pulling a worn volume of Pride and Prejudice. Inside the hollowed pages, an encrypted drive. Got it, she said. But just as they turned to leave, a voice rang out. Going somewhere? It was Elizabeth, and she wasn't alone. Elizabeth stood just beyond the doorway, flanked by two of her private security officers. Her tailored white coat shimmered under the flashing emergency lights, and in her gloved hands was a sleek, compact pistol pointed directly at Michael. "I warned you, darling," she said coldly. "You should have stayed dead." Michael slowly stepped in front of Harriet and Rena. "It's over, Elizabeth. We have everything. The files, the drive, your fake accounts. The Attorney General will see it all by morning." She smiled, cruel and elegant. "You think I haven't survived worse? You think I'll let you ruin me with some doctored drive from a dusty book?" She tilted her head. "Hand it over, now, and I might let you leave here with your legs intact." Rena's voice was calm. "You're bluffing. If you wanted us dead, you would have already pulled the trigger." Elizabeth chuckled. "You forget I've pulled triggers in silk gloves and never gotten a drop on me." Harriet stepped forward. "Enough. I watched you lie to senators, threaten whistleblowers, destroy families just to protect your empire. But this time, you targeted a little girl." Her voice broke slightly. "And that's where it ends." Elizabeth's eyes flicked to Harriet. "The ex-chief of staff returns from the dead. How poetic." Michael used the moment. "Jenkins now." A deafening sound cracked through the estate flashbangs. The hallway outside filled with smoke as tactical boots hit the floor in unison. Jenkins and Grady's team burst through from the east wing, weapons trained, voices booming. "Drop the weapon, hands in the air." Elizabeth's guards moved to fire but were instantly disarmed by Grady's precision shots, non-lethal, straight to the shoulders. Elizabeth stood frozen, the pistol trembling in her grip, the white coat now glowing red from the emergency strobes. Jenkins approached, cuffing her wrists swiftly and without ceremony. "Elizabeth Langston, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, attempted murder, and a dozen counts of obstruction of justice." As he read her Miranda rights, Elizabeth turned to Michael, her voice venomous. "You really think this makes you a hero? That girl will never be yours. Never." Michael's expression didn't waver. "She already is." Outside, the snow had stopped falling. News vans clustered behind barricades at the end of the estate's long drive. Reporters shouted questions as Elizabeth was led out in cuffs, flanked by federal agents. Harriet stepped into the back of the SUV, clutching the encrypted drive tightly. Michael held Anna in his arms as she slept peacefully, her head tucked beneath his chin. Back in the command van, Rena connected the drive to a secure system. As the files opened, Grady whistled low. This is enough to bring down her entire network. Offshore accounts, fake charities, even hit contracts. This isn't just business corruption, it's domestic espionage." Michael looked at him. "Can we guarantee she never gets out?" Grady nodded. "We'll bury her under a mountain of federal charges," Harriet added quietly. "And we'll make sure the world knows the truth." Later that night, in the safe house far from the city, Michael sat with Anna on the porch, wrapped in a thick wool blanket. The sky was clear, stars scattered like tiny promises. "She's gone?" Anna asked softly. "She is," Michael said. "She can't hurt you anymore." Anna looked up. "Will I have to leave again?" "No," he replied, kissing the top of her head. "You're home." Anna closed her eyes. "I liked it better when we were in the snow house with Miss Harriet." Michael smiled. "We'll visit her again, as often as you want." The wind rustled the trees around them. Inside, Rena poured hot cocoa. Harriet was already asleep, exhausted from the confrontation. Jenkins sat at the window, watching the perimeter like a hawk, though even he allowed a moment of ease. Grady returned with an update. "FBI's locking down her properties. Langston's investors are jumping ship. Civil suits are already lining up." Michael leaned back, exhaling long and hard. "It's finally over." "Huh." Grady looked toward Anna. "She's the reason you kept going, isn't she?" Michael nodded. "She reminded me that even in the darkest places, you fight to protect what's good. Even when no one believes in you." Grady nodded respectfully. "Well, now the world does." As dawn approached, a quiet calm settled over them. The storm had passed, and for the first time in a long while, justice didn't feel like a distant dream. It felt like something earned, something real. And for a little girl named Anna, it meant a chance to grow up in peace. 1 month later, The courtroom was packed. Press lined the back rows, their camera lenses pointed toward the front like silent rifles. The judge's gavel struck sharply. This court is now in session for the United States versus Elizabeth Langston. Michael sat quietly in the first row, hands clasped, his dark suit crisp but unpretentious. Beside him, Anna held his hand tightly. She wore a navy blue dress, her curls pinned back by a small silver clip Harriet had given her. Rena, Jenkins, and Grady flanked them, a wall of quiet resolve. The prosecution laid out its case like a slow-burning fire. Evidence streamed onto the monitors, emails, bank transactions, video footage. Witnesses gave chilling testimony. A charity executive whose career had been destroyed after refusing to launder funds. A hospital director coerced into denying care to lower-income families. And finally, Harriet took the stand. She looked directly at Elizabeth, who sat stone-faced at the defendant's table. "I served under Mrs. Langston for 15 years, Harriet began. "I believed in the Foundation's mission until I saw what lay beneath. The manipulation, the exploitation. And when I tried to walk away, she made sure I disappeared." The courtroom murmured. The judge struck his gavel. "Order," Harriet continued, voice firm. "But I came back, not for revenge, for truth. For the little girl she tried to silence, and for the man who refused to give up." Michael exhaled slowly, eyes shining. Later that afternoon, Elizabeth took the stand. Her lawyer had advised against it, but she insisted. She wore a tailored gray suit, hair tied back, still composed. "Do you deny the charges against you, Mrs. Langston?" the prosecutor asked. "I deny that I did anything others wouldn't do in my position," she replied. "I built an empire. I shaped national policy. And yes, I made enemies, but I never betrayed this country. You ordered the death of your husband. I protected our name. You nearly killed his adopted daughter." Elizabeth paused, then looked directly at Anna. "She was never mine to protect." The silence in the room turned to frost. Anna's fingers tightened around Michael's hand. That was all the jury needed. 2 days later, the verdict came. Guilty on all counts. Michael stood on the courthouse steps, microphones thrust toward him. "What's next for you, Mr. Langston?" He looked down at Anna, who stood bravely beside him. "We start over," he said simply. "Not as a story about wealth or betrayal, but about healing, about second chances." Spring came early that year. The snow melted from the Langston estate, revealing soft green hills and the old rose garden that had once been Harriet's pride. Michael didn't return to business. He sold off the companies, closed the shell charities, and invested in something new, the Anna Foundation. Its mission, providing medical care for low-income children and protecting whistleblowers in the healthcare system. Harriet became chairwoman. Rena ran logistics. Jenkins oversaw security. Grady handled legal strategy and compliance. And Anna? She danced again. Michael watched her from the porch as she twirled barefoot across the lawn, chasing the golden retriever Grady had gifted her. Her laughter echoed against the hills, light and free. "Dad," she called, "come see what I made." He rose slowly, joints aching less these days, and followed her to the side garden. There, in the earth, was a small wooden sign. It read, "Mom's Garden, for Harriet." Harriet stood behind them, tears in her eyes. "I wanted her to have something that always grows," Anna said, "like how she helped me grow." Michael placed a hand on her shoulder. "She'd love that." Harriet smiled, voice catching. "I do." That evening, as they gathered for dinner, the table was filled not with silver and crystal but with laughter, chili, cornbread, and iced tea. The way Michael remembered from simpler times, Grady raised a toast, to justice, to survival, and to little girls who change everything. Glasses clinked. Anna grinned. Michael leaned back, eyes scanning the people he now called family. "I used to think power was measured in assets," he said softly, "but now I know it's who stands with you when you have nothing left." Jenkins nodded. "And who you choose to stand for." Outside, the stars returned, scattered across the night sky. For the first time in years, there was no need for bodyguards, no hidden files, no lies to manage. Just peace, just home, just a father and his daughter, starting again. This story reminds us that true wealth isn't measured by money or power, but by compassion, loyalty, and the courage to do what's right even when it's hard. It shows that love can be chosen, justice can prevail, and sometimes, the smallest voice can spark the biggest change.